Hey y'all, Jeremy Parsons here. Just wanted to personally thank y'all for tuning in and watching the Amato podcast.
Today, welcome. We're going to talk to Jeremy Parsons. Jeremy was born in San Antonio, Texas, and he's talking to us today from Texas. He grew up soaking in the sounds of country music, driven by his passion. He taught himself to play the guitar. That's awesome. We'll talk about that. And began to write and perform regularly by high school. In 2011, he was awarded a Texas Music Award, and over the last decade, has played all over the U.S. and Europe, including numerous venues in Texas. So, welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad to have you here. I tell you, I was talking to him before we started recording, and we're gonna put up all the links up to YouTube and Spotify and all that. You guys got to check them out. And when I say country music, some people don't like country music, but this is it transcends country music for me. So I will put all those links up.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's there's so many genres and subgenres these days. It's kind of like if you like it, it's just whatever you want it to be, type of
Absolutely.
deal.
And yet I would not consider myself a country music fan, but I like it. And I've been talking to a bunch of other people who are country artists, and I like their music, so I guess I'm a country fan.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing that brings you in is that it's such there's so many people doing so many versions of it. Like I call myself like, just because I'm not always a big fan of, what's going through the mainstream venues of like radio and stuff like that. But I usually refer to myself as like Americana or alternative country or you can call yourself anything, singer songwriter.
That's it. That's cool. How did you get involved in music?
I kind of when I was 17, I was in high school and I had given up on sports and I was just tired and looking for something new, and there was an old guitar just laying around my place. My parents, I guess, wanted me to play something when I was younger and the piano wasn't happening, so they're like, maybe, he'll run around the house holding a guitar. But so I never played when I was younger, and when I was 17, I finally picked it back up and I don't. It just clicked. I don't know. I couldn't put it down. I ended up I learned so fast. Um, what I did was I picked the hardest chord. I picked an F chord, which is the one that everyone hates to play, and that's where I started. So I started with the F chord, and everything after that was so easy. But
Really?
yeah, for years I wrote in the key of F, and everyone was like, "That's so stupid," and I'm like, "I know, it just makes sense for me. I guess it's weird. I'm a
So
weird guy."
so before that, you never played an instrument.
Mm-mm. No,
You didn't. You obviously didn't know how to read music.
I still don't know how to read music. I mean, I'm still learning how to read in general, but
So
yeah.
that, but that's amazing. Like, so now I'll tell you, I played a saxophone. I played the alto saxophone. I was in the band. I was in the marching band, but I always wanted to, play a guitar or a piano. And when I have a guitar, but it sits in the corner of the room, it just doesn't cross over for me.
Yeah, and it didn't when I was younger, and I think it might have been because when you're a kid, it's like I was outside all the time. I didn't want to sit down and anything. So, but it's like it was something about when we found each other when I was 17 in the future that it was like it had to be then, not before or after maybe. Like it was like I think if you're gonna pick it up you're gonna know when it's time. You just it clicks. You're like I mean, a lot of people are doing stuff with their time like that right now. Like everyone's quarantined. They're like growing or like learning to paint, learning to cook. Like now's probably not a bad time.
But how about the singing part of it? So not only did you teach yourself how to play the guitar and you can do it, how did you put the singing and the guitar together?
So the singing was I always enjoyed singing to the radio when I was a kid. Like I had a very good memory and I could hear a song like, two or three times and know every word. Like just be singing back with the radio. And I think singing was just always kind of something we did and I was allowed to do in the car. And my dad actually growing up, he said he was like, you're lucky we weren't allowed to sing along to the radio in the car.
Huh.
He's like, my father hated it. And I was like, I guess I was lucky, because I enjoyed singing along to the radio. And I think when I started, like, the music started coming from beneath me on the guitar, it was just the second natural step. And then the third natural step in my mind, being from Texas and loving to go to all the live concerts, and especially at that time, the Texas country music scene was like ablaze, and it was crossing over to Oklahoma and going into the Midwest and Nebraska and everything. Um, those guys wrote all their stuff, so like you would get the album notes and read them and be like, oh man, they wrote all of this. That's really cool, and they produced it. So it was like the third natural step was like creating my own uh, thing, and that I took to that just as quick as I did the other things, and I haven't stopped since. I love that. It's such an outlet for me. I don't know where I'd be, or if I'd even be, without that outlet. It's perfect.
I understand. Hopefully everybody has some kind of outlet, whether it's singing, playing an instrument,
Yeah,
painting, talking to people,
yeah, you
uh,
would hope so. Yeah.
especially right now. So okay, so you learn to play the guitar on your own. You learn to sing on your own, really. How did you transition that into like your profession?
So I think it was good that I started when I did. Like 17 to 18 was a good age for me. I think I might have been 18 when I actually took my music out of my bedroom, which here we are right now. This is ground zero in here. The When I took it out of here into a open mic at a place called Rolling Oak Sports Bar in San Antonio, Texas. This would have been, I'm 32 now, so this was, man, math, at least 14 years ago. Uh, I went out there and I played, and Dad was like, just have fun like you do when you're playing in your room. He's like, I hear you up there. You do fine and you have fun. And I was so nervous, and I got up there, and the crowd was like, play one more song, play one more song, play one more song. And I was like, I don't have enough songs yet. I just So it was nice. Like I literally had a mission. I was like, oh, they want to hear more songs. I have to write more songs now. So it wasn't even. It immediately became. It wasn't about me anymore. People were like, oh, we love what you do. We'd love to hear more songs. I was like, well, I got to do it now. I got no excuses. Yeah, and
Did
I love that. That's what it's always been about from then on. It's like I want to write something that I've written, not that I haven't written before, but like that I know that people want to hear me say or write. It's cool.
did you get over those nerves right away, or do you still have them when you first get up there?
I think I've run into a lot of people, and I think I've been foolish enough to say it a couple times too. Like, yeah, it's like, oh man, I don't get nervous anymore. That's nonsense. Like nerves is such a broad term. Like what you're feeling doesn't always have to be bad, but we all get them. Like the butterflies are nerves, like whatever you want to call it. There's an excitement met with an anxiety, and they sometimes can make a perfect show, because I've seen people excitement meet with this like ego, and they go out and they do an okay job. It's because they felt like nothing was on the line. Like I feel like every show you feel like something's on the line. It was like I want to bring these people with me. Like I don't want them to feel separate. I want us to all be like together in the same room experiencing the same feelings. And that's what we try to do every time. And that's where the anxiety and the nerves, like you want to do a good job not for yourself. You want to do a good job for them. You want people to walk away and be like, that was a great show, man. I got, like same thing with anything you create, like a movie, or like write a book. You want people to put it down and go like, man, I'd read a second one if you wrote it.
So this is a passion for you. I can see it's your passion.
Yeah, I don't like, it's one of those things. I don't know. People like, what would you do if you didn't do music? I was like, dude, I don't even want to think about that. Like, it's a fair question, but it's I have people tell me sometimes that I could be a comedian, but like it just, it wouldn't be the same. Like it would be different.
When did you realize that you were good? Like you can this I can do this for
Uh
money for money.
oh, for money, man, probably So years later, I moved to I lived in Nashville for 10 years, and I learned so much from that town, and I still have family up there, and it'll always be like near and dear to my heart. But when I first moved there, I didn't move there till I was 21 because it didn't make sense to me because I was like, I don't want to move to a town full of bars that I can't get into. That doesn't seem like a good networking plan. Uh, so I moved up there when I was 21, and uh, the first 3 months in, I was backstage. I had met some people, and they took me backstage at the Grand Ole Opry, and I got to meet little Jimmy Dickens. And the same night, a bluegrass band called the Graskels. I played one of my songs in their dressing room. And they go, "We want to cut that song," and I laughed, and they were like, "Yeah, why did you laugh?" They got so offended, and I was like, "Were they serious?" And they go, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, dude, my bad." I was like, "Yeah, of course you can cut that song." And I was like, "I thought you were just messing with me. Like you were messing with the young guy who came from Texas. He's all, bright-eyed and ignorant." But they cut the song. And that was so within the first 6 months in town, a bluegrass band had cut my song, and that record got nominated for a Grammy. So I was, a Grammy nominated songwriter on a bluegrass record, and then everyone was asking when I was going to put out a record. So I made a record that October, and it was all that was when I think I was like, man, I think I could actually do this, because I moved to town like a lot of people when they first moved to town. You would see people leave after 3 months. You'd people see people leave after 6, 9. And I gave myself 8. I gave myself 8 months, and I was like, if something didn't happen in 8 months, I guess I could just go back to Texas because it's there's so many places to play in Texas. Uh, so it was a good backup plan. You can always go home, is what you always hear people say, and that's true and beautiful. Um, but yeah, that for me was like, man, I could do this. I think I'll put in my time in Nashville, see what happens. I'm glad I did though. I grew so much as an artist and a person. So
What
it was awesome.
what was your plan after that first album?
Man, that's one thing about my life is that I think it's ridiculous, and I need to fix this at some point. But like, I have literally my last single off my last record was called "Making Things Up as I Go." That's always been my plan, man. I just like, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, all right, where am I at today? Where do I want to be tomorrow? Like, type of thing. So I the plan was to like keep doing as many shows as I can. It's like, cause my career plan is do it till you die. My grandpa always told my dad and my uncle when they were growing up, it's like, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. My dad did what he loved. My grandpa did what he loved. My uncle did what he loved, and I get to do what I love. So
You don't have to be, Blake Shelton or somebody that's on the radio and popular. You're completely happy being happy.
yeah, I would love to be as cool as Blake Shelton, but I don't need to be as popular as Blake Shelton. He is so funny. He is so funny.
Your songs, when I'm either watching them or listening to them, they all have just great stories. There's a great story in them. Um, how do you get inspired to write those?
I think it's just paying attention. I'm really big fan of people and just life in general because it's, you know, it starts and finishes for us all, and the stuff that's in between is the really juicy stuff. And it's stuff that's comparable. It's so broad, and it happens to us all, whether it's in the same way or different. Like, it happens. So it's like, and it's if you pay attention to folks, it's like we're all going through similar stuff. Like right now, for example, everyone is affected, and this is usually the way it is, whether it's all over the news or not. Like, everyone is always affected by something. So it's like I like to look for those things and then write about it. And when it happens to you, it's always easier. Sometimes you have to look deeper, and sometimes it's like smacking you in the face. But I think I have a really good perception as far as other people, and it's always been important to focus outside of myself. I had a lot of people in my life that have been selfish, and I haven't really been a fan of it. So it was always wait. I mean, that's a double-edged sword too, because sometimes you don't pay enough attention to yourself. But at the same time, I can't trade it for all the stuff that I've been able to write from being that way. And you have people in your life that inspire you in good ways and inspire you in bad ways, but you always take something from it. That was my joke in Nashville when I would run into business people who just they seemed like they knew what they were doing, but they never did. It was like, I learned more of what not to do from those people than I did what to actually do, which are golden lessons, no matter how annoying they are at the time.
Everybody thinks they're smart. I have the same issues in our business. There's a million business coaches, and everybody
Oh
thinks
god.
they know better. And I've learned the same lesson that uh, you know best yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no one knows you better than you, and arrogance. An arrogant tone is never a good pitch. Like that's one of those things you walk in and you like. I had this one guy say he was like, "Hey, if you want to work with me, just Google me." And I was like, not only am I not going to Google with you, I'm never going to work with you. Like, and I'm going to make sure that message gets around because I was like, that's disgusting, man. That was like stepping in a fresh pile of dog poop, shoeless, barefoot, no socks. Like that's what that felt like to my soul.
It is the music business what an outsider like me kind of thinks it is, where you have these um, I hate to say sleazy, but you have sleazy business people trying to take advantage of artists.
Oh yeah, it's sleazy is a perfect word. There's so many worse words you could have used. It is. I mean, everyone they find ways, and this goes back to people thinking they're smart. It's like they find ways that they're like, oh, I can manipulate this system to make money. I was like, there's thousands of people coming to Nashville like all the time, and a lot of those people are young and they're green and they're just ignorant to the industry and they don't know how it works. And some guy walks up wearing a suit with like a cigar and he's got like a little bit of swagger and he's able like he knows how to manipulate people and say the right words and touch on all the right nerves. That opens up a lot of wallets, and a lot of people come to town with like this a lot of money and they don't leave with a lot.
Mm.
It's they'll take it though. I mean, there's people around every corner who do that in every industry, and this is the entertainment industry. I've been lucky enough to have good people around me, and always the situations that I have gotten in, I've gotten out like fairly unscathed. And the little bit that was a little bit stingy, I learned from it. So it's kind of it's a necessary part of things. I'm one of the lucky ones, though, I would say, but it happens so many times a day in LA, New York, Nashville, you name it, wherever they're based out of, the labels. And yeah, it's a disgusting industry. That's why it's like it's kind of, you feel bad for people who get in this industry and they're like, yeah, I think I want to do this because I want to be famous. And I was like, that is a word that someone invented, man. You could be famous to yourself. Like it's a feeling that people make you feel. I was like, if you're happy doing it, man, you can't put a price on that. Just be happy doing it, like, because it's not a only crazy people decide to do this, and crazy doesn't necessarily mean it's not bad. Like some of my best friends are crazy people, but it's just like, well, because they're creators. It's a different mindset. You don't think like everyone would. Like we can't function in regular society like some people do. It's like stuff just doesn't make sense to us, and that's the way it is. But like there's not a this isn't a rational thing to do. Like it almost doesn't make sense if you think about it. I was like, wait a minute, you want me to get on stage, you're going to pay me to get on stage so I can do what I love for a room full of people who want to hear it, and then also they're going to buy my merch after the show. Like it doesn't, it's weird. Like it's weird, and it's always feels good, but like at the same time, it doesn't necessarily make sense to a lot of people who might be like sitting in a cubicle all day. They're like, well, I don't understand. And I was like, me either, man, but it's so much fun. You should try it sometime.
Just go with it. It's working.
Yeah.
Who were your role models growing up in the music business?
Man, I always loved being out of San Antonio. I always loved a lot of the Texas guys down here, like Pat Green and George Strait, and Randy Rogers is another one. But uh, like the older cats too, like Lyle Lovett and John Prine, who just recently passed away. He was a big inspiration for me. A lot of the newer guys in Americana, like Jason Isbell, is probably one of my favorites as far as being a writer and inspiring goes. Um, I've always Hank Williams Sr. was a really big influence for me too. My dad listened to a lot of really classic country, and he was someone that immediately jumped out at me. I was like, dude, this guy, he dropped out of like the 5th grade too. You're like, man, what a poet. Like, if there was ever proof that someone didn't need school, like, he was so good. I've always liked people who structured songs. It's not complicated. It's not, they didn't have to do like an intricate chord structure. Like, the words were just as important as the feel of the melody that they're playing behind them. Like, it almost just came together so naturally. Like, you wouldn't even try to separate it as two parts because it was just the same package. I always loved that. And when someone was a natural at it, you could tell. Like Guy Clark is another great example. That dude wasn't the best singer. John Prine too, but like everything together, whether it was just their voice and the guitar, like it just it meshed so wonderfully.
Do you, if you look outside of your industry, it's country music, and you see other artists, it's all digital and there's no instruments. Can you still appreciate that?
Oh yeah, I love all kinds of music because that's a lot of work that someone has put into a track. Like when you hear a track like that, you're looking at like, because I've written on pop songs, I've written on rap songs, I've helped people like structure R&B tracks. Like I've worked on everything because you could just learn so much from it. Uh, and I love it. Like good music is good music, man. There's no genre on like something that's good. There's opinions, of course, but there's no walls. If something is good and it's come from that spot, like it moves you, like it, and you can't deny that. Like, I mean, you can try, but like you're not doing yourself any favors. But
Hmm.
oh yeah, I love stuff like that. Like I have a lot of friends who are producers that'll send me stuff they're working on, uh, and I love it. Like for example, my buddy, someone reached out to him the other day and was like, "Hey, can you make me a ridiculous rap beat?" And he had just bought this fart package of like its beats. It's like different sounds of farts. So he made a rap beat with just laced with all these fart sounds in it, and it is intoxicatingly hilarious. Like I listened to it 5 times. I was like, I can't not listen to this. And there was just parts where you'd be like, you'd get used to it, and then he would do something like this drop out, and it would just be this long one. You just like, it's stuff like that, man. It's that's art. It's art.
All right, so you're not as old as me, and I'm not that old, but I remember, going, walking down the block right here, and there was a record store, and I think it was every Tuesday morning, the new 12-inch singles would come out, and
Yeah.
records, and he'd put them on the record player for you so you could hear them before you buy it. So now it's Spotify and YouTube and all that. Can you explain to me how has that hurt the music business, or you directly, and how, if we can get the music for free online, how do you guys get paid?
Well, it cuts into it, but like I said, like if you're getting it, like everything is constantly evolving and changing and growing in a different direction. I've had some mainstream success, and I do a lot of stuff indie though, and my outlook on it is like that. the way that they opened up the digital platform, sure, it hurt the sales of the guys who were going out and spending too much money on cars and houses or girlfriends they couldn't afford. I'm sorry that you can't have as big a pool as you used to have. But it's for the indie artist, it puts me in the ears of people like all across the world. Like I couldn't do that on my own. I don't have, an endless USPS account that I can constantly ship like, stuff to Istanbul or Norway or stuff. And I've gotten to go to Norway and play because of stuff like that. Like it's awesome. Like I mean, it's infinite. Like you never know who's going to hear you or who's going to be able to find it because of that. Like I still love. I will go buy a physical copy if I'm a fan of a person or the producer who did the record. Like I still invest in that because I want all the stuff. I don't want to have to go to Wikipedia. I want to read it off the CD booklet. um, I want to see where they recorded it. Like who played like bass or drums on it. If I know the mix engineer and stuff like that. That's always fun. Uh, but it's just different. I mean, and vinyl has kind of come back, which is cool. I love that. Yeah, I always love the sound of vinyl. I do miss the days that you speak of because uh, to be creating in that era would have been nice, but I think I would have felt probably just as spoiled as they do about it. Because when I came in, we were always everyone was switching over to like MySpace and everything, and like everything had already started transferring that direction. And I sold a lot of physical CDs before that, which is nice. But I mean, you can still do that if you play shows. People want to walk away from something with something from a show other than the memory. They want that physical thing, whether it's a koozie, a shirt, or a CD or vinyl. Which people will buy all that stuff. Like you can make money. There's people that sell vinyl pieces for like $35 at their shows. I'm like,
Oh wow.
that's a hefty price, like to put down on, something where you already like bought tickets and, probably got food and however many drinks, you know. Uh, so there's still ways out there. It's just it's cut down, and there's always a bad side and a good side. Like I think that the digital stuff. I mean, we get like a fraction of a penny every time someone listens to a song, which is fine. But they're listening to the song and they're going to tell someone else about it. So that penny can turn into a dime. That dime turns into a quarter, so on and so forth. Like, but it's almost like the messages that you get from people like, "Hey, man, I just went through a divorce and burned this house down." Really syncs up with me. I was like, you can't put a price on stuff like that, man. So it's just like I get that artists have to support themselves. Like I'm an artist who has to support himself as well. But there's also a good side. We're helping people, and that's what the music. Most people who create music, you start creating music because you felt that it did that same thing for you, and it's your way of kind of giving it back. But you also enjoy it, and you want people you want to do the same thing for people that music did for you by creating your music. So it's as an artist, like, yeah, what would I complain about? That penny being more pennies. Probably not, but at the same time, like it is what it is, and the music's getting out there. So
Awesome. That's a good way to look at it.
I mean, well, it's just it's realistic. I feel like it is what it is.
Yeah. I meant that you so music brings a lot of emotion. It puts you back in a spot in a time that you were there. It could be good, it could be bad. Um, it could help you get through things, like you just said with the gentleman with the divorce.
Yeah.
So yeah, looking at it on your end, I'm sure that's a great feeling, and you can
Oh,
look back on it.
oh, it is. It means everything. Uh, cause sometimes you get like if you're playing a lot of shows. Like when I was in Nashville, I played downtown, and it just like it really ate at me. It was like cover songs that I didn't always want to play, and like rowdy crowds that I wasn't like necessarily into, but loved making sure that they still had a good time. But it just wears on you after a little bit. And every now and then there would be these moments where I would just be like, man, I need to quit doing this. And someone would walk up to the stage and be like, hey, man, when I walked in here, I was in a bad mood, but you saved my entire day. And I was like, all right, well, I know I'm here for a reason. You know, it's just like, all right, get over yourself, Jeremy. Get your head back in the game. It's not about you, dude. So that stuff, there's always been like little echoes when I forget that come and find me, which is always nice. It makes me feel like I am for sure in the right spot at the right time and stuff.
Awesome. Burn This House Down, you brought it up, and uh, when I first pulled it up, I mean, it's awesome. It's an awesome song. I love it. The video is also great. Could you tell me what goes into that? So you've already written the song. How do you create that video, and what's your inspiration there?
Man, that's always the fun part. The guy who worked on that video and worked on he's worked on all the videos actually. He did the album cover. He's my best friend. PJ Schenkel of Three Hat Media. Uh absolute boss. He's we basically just he and I get together and we storyboard it. Like Burn This House Down is a song that's a great example of it. Pretty easy video to make. It's pretty much storyboarded verse to chorus to verse to chorus to verse, and then bridge. Like you have the story of what happens within that song. So we just have to find a setting, make sure the lighting goes with like the tone of the song, and we just play the story out. Uh, and that stuff like that is easy. Like why is the bluebird blue, and making things up as I go. It's why is the bluebird blue was a little bit more somber. So you we and we did that all by ourselves too. He's a genius. He's one of those all around artist people, and I love creating with him. He's so easy to like. If you have an idea, he's not going to shoot it down. But if it's not a good idea, he's also going to tell you that it's not a good idea, and or try to figure out how to make it a better idea that would fit. So it's very like cohesive, and all of those videos flow so well. It's because it was usually just he and I doing it, and we would like look at angles, and he would direct me because I hate acting. I hate acting so much. It's such a different, it's just like being in front of people. I was like, yeah, if all the people were in like a tiny little box and just staring at you, it's weird. I was like, it's so different. But it's but he always coaches me through it, and honestly, he's a better actor than I am. There's a scene in the scene where I'm fighting with my girlfriend and burn this house down. Uh, he came and showed me how to act that out and did it a million times better than I am. I was like, can you just wear a mask with my face on it or something? But it's yeah, we get together, we listen to the song, we get together, we brainstorm, and when something makes the most sense, we're able to then transfer into like renting equipment and hiring some people if we need them. um but yeah, it's always been such a fun process. I love that. Just as a subsidiary, like creative outlet for the music itself, because it applies to the music itself. Obviously, it's so fun for me to be a part of it.
What is that feeling when you complete the video and he shows you the finished piece for you?
It's usually like kind of, it's cool because you know what you're expecting because you've seen it in your head already, kind of. But he always just does such a good job at like, he's so good at finding the rhythm of a track and making sure all the scenes transfer with that, or he'll pull like a cool effect, and you're just always like, it makes your brain like shoot out a little bit. You're like, oh wow, that's like cooler than I could have imagined, type of deal. While also working through in your own head how much you might hate yourself, like hate seeing yourself acting on screens. So it's an array of emotions.
Well, how about when a song comes on the radio that you finished? It's got to be a great feeling because you're creative. You can finally have a finish line to something you've been working on for a long time.
Yeah, that is awesome. That is that's always one of those things. It's that there's so many fun parts about being the creator that it's you when you have the idea, that is such, you get so excited when you finish a song. You are another tier of excited when you get to bring that song to life in the studio. Like it's like the dream is coming true all over again. And then when you get to release that song to a world and people start resonating with it, that's like uncomparably awesome. And then everything that comes with that, it's just like a fan of like all these different emotions, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is too good to be true. But it's almost like every time, because there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of insecurity. Like you might like something, but like, I'm not you, you're not me. Like, I don't want to assume that you're going to like something. But I think if you love what you created, then other people can then fall in love with it too, because that comes out. It comes across.
Does it bother you? I know sometimes when I put things out, I mean, you get all kinds of different opinions. Everybody has one.
Yeah.
Do the negative opinions cut deep?
I don't know. I mean, I think it depends on like the mood. If I haven't had my coffee or breakfast or something like that, like it could probably hit me harder. And my dad might have to listen to like a 40-minute rant on the phone, and then I'll get to the other end of it and be like, all right, I get it now. I'm cool. The steam has left my body. But sometimes it's just like I change sounds in between my first record and the things I need to say record. And there's a lot of people that were very traditional and very disappointed. They were like, he kind of sounds like every other country artist now. And I was like, that's the first time anyone has ever told me that I sounded like anybody. So I was like, it was kind of like, thank you, I guess. That may, if it fits in that well, maybe it'll get more plays. But there's always something I try to look for in that and be like, because Why is the Bluebird Blue is a great example of a track that is kind of classic sounding. It's got an old school, swing-ish, but like traditional country, like Hank Williams Sr. type of vibe. And it was like, there was a comment on one of my YouTube videos, and I said, it was like, oh man, well, if you don't like this track, you're going to love track 13. It's like, I'm not going to lash back at you. I'm not here to do that. That's not in my nature. I'm a passive dude. I create because I love creating. And there's people that have liked it and want to keep listening. So I'm going to keep creating until they don't want to hear it anymore. But I was like, there's always something you can do that's either you don't say anything or you give them something that they want in return. And in return of that comment, the guy actually was like, oh, I actually really like this track. And I think he's opened up to more tracks on that record since, because I reached out to him as an individual, not as an artist defending his art. I was like, I feel like my art doesn't need to, I don't need to defend my art because my art can defend itself in a way. Like it was created for a sole purpose of like, I felt that it needed to be created, and, it made the record because other people, like the studio musicians, resonated with it too. Cause that's always been important to me. Like I bring a bunch of songs into a studio and we pick out the stuff that we want to play. That's what I always loved about listening to a Tom Petty record. Like it was like there was no specific genre on a Tom Petty record. One song would be folk, one would be rock, one would be like kind of psychedelic, and you're like, okay, this is cool. It's like his greatest hits for that time, but it's all this like one big long message of like, love yourself, love somebody else, love everybody if you can. He always had something to say about like, and it was so conversational too. Like it was so simple. None of that is like complex. Like he's like, one of his songs, I think it was The Waiting. That's always my favorite one. I was like, what a dude. Like he said, the waiting is the hardest part. That's just like a sentence. That's the hook. I'm like, that is so true though. I hate you.
So we're all stuck in our rooms right now. I'm stuck here. You're stuck there. How have you maintained contact with people who want to hear your music?
The Facebook lives and the live shows honestly have been the best outlet, and I've never really done that because like the human, like, I would rather have this conversation in person. We high five when it's over type deal. That's my style. Like, I'm a hugger. So it's like it's been kind of a weird thing to adjust to. It's kind of like the camera thing when filming the music videos. It's like I have to assume that y'all are all in here somewhere. But it's been nice. It's been, I think, mentally healthy to like, and people, like, it's like you don't want to bother people because there's so many people doing Facebook lives right now. Like I know folks that are doing them like once a day, and I'm like, dude, props to you, but like you should give yourself and everyone else a break. Like, break it up a little bit. So I've been just trying to do them like at least once a week, like maybe wait a little bit longer sometimes, just because I just don't want to make people feel like they have to be so many places at once. Because if anything, we have time off right now, and I think that in some form or fashion we should all try to enjoy it. Because I'm one of those people. Like, my joke to my friends is we've all been staying in touch and checking in on each other, like everyone should be, but the they've been like, "How you been doing, man?" I was like, "Dude, this is the first time in 32 years I've been able to relax." I was like, "I'm not a person who can relax, but it takes a pandemic sometimes, I guess."
Well, I enjoy the live performances. I don't know. There's something about being, you're in a sweatshirt and you're in your room and it's not this big production. I like the raw sound of it.
Oh yeah, yeah, me too. And it's been fun to kind of like mess with like I have a whole live system that I travel with, so I've been trying to like set my mic up and give them the experience like if you were there, like at a show. Like, I have all my gear, and it's just like, but I'm in my room, so it's the comfy version of a live show, really.
Cool. What is your plan once all this breaks?
I've been down in Texas just playing shows from December to whenever this all kicked off. I think my last show was right before St. Patty's Day. But all the bookings have been canceled, of course, for April, and then I guess we'll see what happens in May. It looks like May is probably going to go down the drain as well. But once this kicks off, I plan to get back out on the road as quickly as possible because I miss it so much. I miss people in general, man. It's like it's almost like something that I need just as much as like 3 square meals a day and water is human interaction on a level of like, hey, man, it's, I don't know, the conversation and the element of being, out there in the world and stuff. I know everyone misses it, but it's important to me to get back out there and get some actual FaceTime with people as far as live shows and stuff go. But I'm also going to start putting out a record this year, my third record. It's called Things to Come. I finished it up when I was in Nashville end of last year, and brought it back with me. And I'm going to start releasing. I'm probably going to do 4 or 5 singles out of the gate, and the fourth or fifth single will be released when the pre-order drops, and hopefully that'll be sometime later this year, and then we'll put out the record beginning of 2021.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's 10 tracks. It's a full-length record. Um, just pretty much my favorite songs of this chapter of my life. So it's I had the joke. The last record was called Things I Need to Say, and this one's gonna be Things to Come, and I guess the one after this would be Things I Didn't Thing or something like that or whatever. Just keep the thing going.
So, Jared, where can we find you? Where can we find you online? And we'll we'll
Best
throw we'll throw all your links up as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, best place to go, probably what one quick stop would be jeremyparsonsmusic.com. It's got links to Spotify and Instagram and everything, and I try to keep it updated as much as I can as far as well, no, the show's thing is pretty blank right now, but we'll fix that later.
Yes, sir.
But I post all the just all the stuff on my main page. Like, if I'm doing a Facebook Live, it'll be up there with a link to my Facebook and everything. So
Cool. Well, we'll share everything for you. If you come up to the Northeast, I'd love to come out and see you.
Yeah, I'd love to. There's a lot of people that actually have been reaching out to me about that. After this, we might just have to make it happen, just because we're gonna need to just be doing as much shows as we possibly can. Just
Definitely.
get all over the place, because you never
Well,
know when this is gonna resurge. So we just got to get it in while we can.
do it. Exactly. Hopefully it'll be one big party once we can get out of the house.
Oh God, I hope so.
But Jeremy, I appreciate it. It's been great talking to you. I could keep going for the next hour or so.
Yeah, this has been easy. I don't even know how long it's been.
Almost
I
45 minutes.
I don't even know what day it is though. Let's be real.
I'm the same way. I think it's
Well,
Wednesday.
it is. I think you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me. This was a blast.
You got it. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, sir.